Welcome to Two Idiots, One Podcast. I'm Bailey.
And I'm Taylor. And before we start today, Bailey, I just want to talk to you about something.
Okay, what do you have for us today, Taylor?
Have you ever just forgot things?
Yeah, I forget a lot of stuff.
Like what?
Like I forget to take the dogs out for walks and stuff.
Sometimes I forget my keys, my AirPods, my wallet.
Oh no, I can't leave the house without my keys. So,
I don't know. Sometimes, like, when I wake up, it feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. You know, like I'm reliving the same day, but I can't remember it sometimes.
no, I definitely feel that. It kind of reminds me of, basically the army when I was deployed and every day was exactly the same for 12 hours a day.
So before we get started today, Bailey, I want to talk to you about something.
What do you have for me today, Taylor?
I want to talk to you about forgetting things.
Forgetting things?
Yeah, you know, like forgetting your keys.
Oh, that reminds me.
Reminds you of what?
This one time, I forgot to take the dogs out for a walk.
Oh, you forgot to take the dogs out?
Yeah, this one time.
You know, this kind of sounds like you're reliving the same day over and over again.
It feels like we've had this conversation like recently.
I know, and when we had that conversation, there was something in there that I just wanted to forget.
Me too. I want to forget a lot of things.
Wouldn't it be cool if there was like a place where you could do that? If there was a company that just specialized in forgetting?
Like if, you had like something bad happen like PTSD or some sort of trauma and it would be like a way to forget that.
Yeah, like instead of going to therapy for your trauma, you just went to a place and they hooked up some machines, mapped a part of your brain, and then said, poof.
That seems like something I would do to get rid of my memory of some of my past relationships.
I mean, that would almost be like, the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind.
Wait, I might be forgetting. Is that the movie we're doing this week?
Oh, I thought that was a quote. Maybe I'm misremembering it, or maybe I forgot about it. I don't know. Is that the movie we're doing this week?
I'm pretty confident it is. Directed by Michael Gondry.
Starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet?
Yeah.
And David Cross?
David Cross?
Yeah, he was the friend.
Yeah.
I just like to throw that in there even though he wasn't really a prominent person in the movie.
That's fair.
And it's also starring Kirsten Dunst, who I always mess up that name, Mark Ruffalo.
And Elijah Wood.
Oh, I was going to talk about the British guy.
Oh.
Who apparently is like a really big deal, but I don't know him.
Yeah, he's not someone I recognize from other movies.
No, he's a British guy or something. So, but yeah, the Incredible Hulk is in this.
The Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo.
That's
and Frodo.
I don't know. I think of Edward Norton as the Incredible Hulk.
Nah, I think of Mark Ruffalo as the Incredible Hulk, and then you got Elijah Wood as Frodo, Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura.
Yeah, he has a bunch of really prominent, rememberable roles.
And then Kate Winslet is just Kate Winslet.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that she got an award or a nomination in this movie for one of the top 100 best performances of all time.
So, speaking of performances, I know that we're like getting really out of order with this movie, and like that's okay, but because you said that, probably the reason she got a award for it, not a reward, was because the director told her and Jim Carrey like 40 different things. They would split them up into rooms, and he would tell Kate Winslet that this was a comedy, and he would tell Jim Carrey that this was a drama. So that's why they're two totally different people.
That makes sense. I know that Jim Carrey was somewhat upset during this movie because he was specifically told he wasn't allowed to improvise as much. And like Kirsten Dunst and Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo. I don't know who that is. Who's Mark Ruffalo?
I'm sorry. Mark Ruffalo Stan in this movie. They were told to improvise a lot, and Jim Carrey was like, bro, come on.
Well, one thing that was completely improvised. Well, you know what? Let's stop talking about this. We're going to get way too ahead of ourselves. So the movie that we're reviewing today is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And on a scale from 1 to 5, Bailey, what do you give it?
I'm going to actually give this movie a solid 4.5. I think that it was pretty close to perfect, and had you asked me this, 4 or 5 viewings ago, it would have been a solid 5. I think it's degraded over the years because I've seen it so many times.
I mean, yeah, I would say so. Ironically enough, the first time that I watched this, I probably would have gave it a 5 too. And the second time I watched it, I gave it a 4. And this time I was 100% going into it thinking that this was going to be a solid 4 out of 5 for me. And I believe that when I watched it, every other time that I've watched it, I've cried. And this time I teared up just a little bit, but I feel like the older that you get with this movie, the harder it hits you. So I'm going to give it a 5.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really going to give it a 5. I was going to give it a 4, and then I started, like, the ending just hit me in all these different ways, and I was like, yeah, this movie makes me feel something, so I have to give it a 5.
No, I definitely feel that. This movie was really good. Like, if you haven't seen this movie, we haven't given anything away really at this point, and I would recommend watching it.
Well, I mean, RogerEbert.com even recommends it because they gave it a 5 out of 5. Or, I'm sorry, on the Roger Ebert scale, a 4.
Which is a 5.
Which is a 5. But yeah, no. So I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, I'm not gonna do like a 5-sentence summary for this one. I'm gonna give like an actual summary for this. And if you haven't seen this movie, it is basically one of the only movies where Jim Carrey is in a very serious role. So if you've watched The Truman Show, this movie has the same acting as like in The Truman Show, where Jim Carrey is, not funny. He's being serious.
I mean, that's also the same for the number 23.
Yeah, but the number 23 was a bad movie, and I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend The Truman Show because it matches the same energy that this movie has.
So I would recommend the number 23 because while it is a critical failure and a lot of fans don't like it either.
So it was a failure.
I personally think it was really good. And I know quite a few other people who think it's really good as well. And it's not just because it has Tear You Apart by She Wants Revenge in it.
But anyway, this movie is basically about a couple, Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, who meet, and they become super opposite. I mean, they're basically opposites. They become super dysfunctional, and when they break up, Kate Winslet gets her memory erased. And then Jim Carrey says, well, you did that, I'm going to do that too. And then whenever he's, getting it done halfway through, realizes that he doesn't want this, and that's all that I'm going to tell you. Watch the movie. It's really good.
Well, I mean, were we not going to get into spoilers at some point?
No, that was going to be like the little review before, because like I just really like this movie, so.
No, I feel that.
That was that warning, because that was the little summary warning. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I would go check it out and then come back to this podcast. Excuse me, I was burped. And then come back to this podcast when you have watched it, because you'll have a deeper appreciation for it.
Absolutely.
Because as much as we love spoiling the shit out of things, this is not one of them.
Yeah, this is one of the movies that I think you would appreciate significantly more if you watched it yourself prior to having someone explain in pretty decent detail what happens.
Right, because I mean we're gonna go into pretty decent detail with everything, but so that was your warning. We're just gonna jump straight into the spoilers for the review.
Okay.
So go ahead, take it away, Bailey. Start spoiling the fuck out of this.
So this movie wakes up, this movie
this
starts.
This movie wakes up. The movie's a person.
Yes. No, this movie starts with Jim Carrey waking up at the end of the movie after his memory's been erased.
Okay, but we don't know that, and that's what...
You just told me to spoil this movie.
I mean, yeah, but one thing that I really liked about this movie is I forgot what it's called, but it's one of those tales where it basically falls in on itself and comes full circle.
Yeah.
With the plot-wise,
So this movie starts with the ending.
Which you don't know.
Of Jim Carrey waking up, and he wakes up and he thinks it's a typical day. He goes outside, his car has been damaged in an accident that he thinks was the car next to him, which it obviously wasn't because the damage on his vehicle was yellow and the car next to him was not a yellow car.
But he's so mad he doesn't know.
Yeah, so he leaves a nice thank you note on their car.
And like not the kind of thank you note that you're thinking of, like a legitimate thank you note.
Yeah, it literally just says thank you.
But he does that, and then he's going to work on he's at the train station, and for some weird reason he's sitting there with all these people and he's looking around, and the train's not coming, so he hops on the other train to starts with an M.
No, it starts with a W.
It's a W.
You have this.
No, I don't, because I don't want to look at my notes. I want to try to get it from memory, but I have
Wontok.
Wontok. I knew that. I was thinking wonton. and I
Not,
knew that wasn't right.
or I'm sorry, Montauk.
But yeah, I told you started with an M. Yeah, you said wonton.
You'd believe anything I say.
There's obviously only one idiot here.
It's the guy who got convinced that it was one talk when I said one talk.
Well, I had wonton in my mind, and then I had Worcestershire sauce.
Is that how you say it?
That's literally how I say it, Worcestershire.
Oh, okay.
So, Worcestershire sauce. But anyway, Worcestershire. I can't say it. Anyway, that's not the point. Anyway, he gets on this train, and he finds this girl who's really weird.
Clementine.
Clementine, or Kate Winslet, is... So, when I first watched this, I didn't really have an understanding of her character, and, I'm pretty confident that she is bipolar.
I mean, it's never like strictly discussed in the movie.
No, I mean it's not,
But yeah, I would based on my experience with having like extremely bipolar family members, like yeah, she fits the profile with like some of her actions and her, mood swings, which I'm not a doctor, so like I can't like give a legitimate diagnosis, but my anecdotal evidence points to yeah, she's probably bipolar.
I have a psychology degree, so I'm pretty confident that I am correct just because I have a degree.
Yeah, I mean,
It's okay. I took a class for it. I'm able to spot the difference.
that's fair.
But no, so one thing I do want to talk about is I want to talk about their conversation on the train, because I feel like it really sets up the whole movie.
Well, so when they're on the train, like a majority of it is or prior to that point has been Jim Carrey or Joel narrating, and in it he starts narrating and he says, I'm missing 2 years worth of pages, I'm missing 2 years of memory. And then it says, or then he says, over voiceover, if only I could meet someone new. And like almost immediately afterwards he looks over and she's looking at him, and then the conversation starts.
And the conversation that they have is so weird and out there, and I think that it fits the rest of this movie because I think it really sets everything up, because she starts talking about the different hair colors.
Yeah, she's like, my current hair color is blue ruin, which is interesting, or it's an interesting choice. Like, it was an intentional choice because she cycles through 4 different hair colors throughout the movie. And blue is like the depression, almost leading to rebirth, which is when her hair turns green.
Right, and which, I mean, her hair, so the whole point of the hair was to signify where in the story we were, so that way you could keep track of it from what I've read.
Yeah, that was definitely part of it.
But she starts talking about the different colors and starts naming off all these colors and their names that are associated with them, and then starts talking about how there's a person who has the job of naming these things. And Jim Carrey says, no, there's no way. And she goes, well, there has to be. And then starts naming off her own colors.
Like Agent Orange.
Yeah, like Agent Orange. That's what she names as her color. She's like, I came up with that one. That one's mine. And I think that whole conversation sets the tone, because it goes to show you that these are 2 very, very different people.
Yeah, Clementine is very whimsical and free-spirited, and Joel is very reserved and, I don't know if held back or repressed is the right thing, but he's very internalizes a lot of things. He journals everything. He doesn't express himself.
So this movie, when I watched it, I went through, and my last relationship, I would say this is basically this movie. Like, the reason that I understand this so much is because you have, 2 different people that are doomed to be together but want to like try to make it work, and I'm like, oh man, I get that one. But not like in a bad way. I don't want anybody to think this is in a bad way, because it's not. It's just, it's good, and I've seen it a lot with past relationships, and that's why I think the older that you get, the more you appreciate this movie.
Absolutely, because you can see that it pulls a lot from like real instances and real people's relationships, and then movilizes it, which is a word I just made up.
Yeah, I mean, movilizes is like cows.
No, well, it's not movilizes.
No, it doesn't matter. It sounds like you're talking about cows.
Well, I mean, it's just like newbie.
No, it's not a thing.
No, newbie is a thing at theaters.
Yeah, and it's dumb. That's why nobody ever goes for him, except for that one dude who's probably there jerking off, and you just don't know it.
I mean, that's fair.
So yeah, nobody goes to the newbies and wants to play the fucking games. We go there to watch the like. If you show up early, you're showing up just to get there at the very end of the newbies where she's talking about it, so you can watch the previews.
I mean, that's fair. I don't know. Some of the games look cool.
Have you ever played them?
Well, no, because
Why?
because I don't care about
Exactly.
stuff like that.
So shut the fuck up and stop talking about it.
Man, that's cold-blooded.
But no, I just really like that conversation, and it goes to show because I would say that like you're right. Clementine's the more free spirited, outgoing person. She's like the extroverted, carefree, super impulsive, has to live her life with, doesn't want to miss anything, so has to go constantly. And Joel's more of the introverted, anal person who looks at everything from a very critical aspect, which we'll get to later in the movie. But yeah, I think that whole thing really sets it up just by the way that he answers that question of there's no way that somebody does that because he thinks it's stupid.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you that she's just like, I think this is fun.
Well, so another important thing that's said during this scene, which I don't have the exact quote written down,
Mm-hmm.
but Joel says something and Clementine takes it the wrong way, and Joel's just like, "Oh, I was just trying to be nice."
It was her name, right?
Yeah, it was because she was like, "Oh, you're not gonna make the old McDonald," or I'm sorry,
Or the oh my darling,
Yeah.
oh my darling, Clementine.
yeah, and he's like, "Oh no, I don't even know the song." Which, funny enough, I'm pretty confident that his character doesn't know the song because you can see in the when they're actually doing the memory erasers
Mm-hmm.
that the first time they met he did that.
Yes.
So that would mean that while his memory was being erased, that song likely got wiped too, because it has the association of her name, and he's actually said it to her before, so he probably literally doesn't remember it.
I am so glad you mentioned that because that was one of those like minor details that was in it that was just kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that if that was intentional or not. I would imagine it likely was.
With how deep this movie goes, I would think that it's intentional. Even if it isn't, I'm gonna say it's intentional just because it brings a lot more credibility to the movie.
Memory. Yeah, exactly.
So it's one of those fine little details. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, when I noticed it, probably the second or third time I watched it was the first time I noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And now every time I see it, I'm just like, oh, that's foreshadowing.
Yeah, no, that whole scene does a really good job of foreshadowing.
Oh,
And-
it really does.
And also, fun fact, when she punches him, that was not scripted. She just improv'd and did that. So the reaction that he has is genuine.
That's pretty funny.
He was like, I don't know why you're doing this.
That's really funny. I really like that. But I mean, that goes on to further solidify what I was saying earlier. Her character was literally she was literally told to improvise with her character.
Yeah, and can you move a little bit away from the mic?
I'm sorry.
I feel like you're just super loud.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, no, I think that does solidify a lot of things with the difference between how the characters were approached, because it seemed like everybody but Jim Carrey had fun with this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was by design.
So one thing that he does quote when he met the director for the first time and they were sitting down and talking about it, he was in a bad place, so he was actually depressed, and the director looked at him and said that he could cry and needed to continue to be that way because it's going to be great for the movie.
That's
Jim Carrey says that this is one of the fucked up things about the business is because he was excited that he was depressed.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, that's perfect. You're perfect for this role.
Did you know that Nick Cage was actually supposed to have the role first?
I'm so glad that did not happen because if Nick Cage had have been the person in this movie, I would not like this movie.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that I would have felt as positively about this movie if it was Nick Cage, which I like Nick Cage in some of his older stuff. This was during the era where Nick Cage stuff was still good. It was pre-Ghost Rider.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I don't think this would have been good at all.
That's cold-blooded.
I mean, Nick Cage is it doesn't matter. We're not getting into Nick Cage because that could be a whole episode about is Nick Cage a genius or not. But basically after this, the really cool foreshadowing thing that doesn't make sense at the time because it's the end of the movie, so you don't realize it, is when, she's talking about taking the trip or whatever, and then he's driving her home, and he says, so he's driving her home and they go to the lake or whatever.
Montauk.
After Montauk, yeah, they go to Montauk, and then after they're doing the lake thing, he's driving her home, and in the morning she goes, well, I need to go get my toothbrush real quick, and gets out, and then Elijah Wood pops around the corner and knocks on the window and is like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Because that didn't make any sense. So the first time I watched that whole thing made zero sense to me, and I was extremely confused.
So it's supposed to. I actually have that. That's one of the few things I have written down in regards to like specific things I wanted to point out.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I wanted to point that out is because that's like basically one of the things that solidifies that this is them re-meeting instead of the original meeting.
Oh, okay.
Because if it wasn't for him not knowing the Clementine song, his vehicle not being damaged, and Patrick or Elijah Wood not coming to knock on the window, you could argue that this was actually like the first time they met.
So I have that wrote down. I believe I wrote down that he remembered meeting Clementine wrong because so I know that that's not true. But when he's like having his memories erased and shit, I wrote that he, remembered meeting her wrong because the first time I watched it, I really truly thought that he was remembering her wrong that whole time. But the second time I watched it, or actually I had not taken it back, at the end, it all made sense when it came together. And I was like, oh, that was the first of the movie. Because I'm trying to go at this like my initial reaction the first time I saw the movie.
I mean, I can't even do that. The first time I saw this movie, I was like 11.
Well, I mean, the first time I watched this movie was in high school in your room.
Yeah, with me.
With you. Yes, and your girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And then I cried, and I thought you were asleep, and you weren't.
No.
And you both told me about it the next morning.
We did.
And I was like, I am so sorry.
It was funny.
It was not funny.
It was pretty funny.
No, it wasn't.
It was pretty funny.
I didn't think it was funny at all.
I don't know. Those are the kind of memories that I look back on fondly.
I mean, I look at parts of that fondly. Like, this was the first time I watched the movie, and, it made me feel a certain way to the point where I cried, which was nice. And then I don't look at the part fondly where you were awake. If you had been sleeping, it would have been totally different.
I mean, we didn't roast you for it.
No, you didn't roast me for it because you felt bad for me.
Well, I mean, it's because, historically, when I saw this movie, I also cried.
Because it's sad.
It is very sad. Like, this movie is extremely sad if you're looking at it from a certain perspective. But it's also really hopeful if you look at it from a different perspective.
And I really hope we have different perspectives. I think we have different perspectives on it.
I think so.
So that's going to make for a very interesting towards the end talk.
Well, I'm actually just going to go ahead and say it. This is actually a horror movie.
And it's not a horror movie at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead and tell me why this is a horror movie.
Well, it's a horror movie because it's scary.
Why is it scary?
So the thought of someone being able to go inside your brain and delete stuff at will is a scary concept. And the fact that, Joel is clearly terrified while he's stuck in his head with his memories being deleted. And with the scenes where everything is distorted in a way you wouldn't expect. Such as the scene when Jim Carrey is under the table as a 4-year-old. And you can see his mom from like her waist down. And he's like crying and sad because he's like, she doesn't hold me, she doesn't love me, because that's how 4-year-olds think. Like, I don't know, it could be scary from like a really far out, wide view of horror perspective.
If you really tried, you could make that argument, but I don't think it's a horror movie because I think the reason that he's upset is because he's losing memories of Clementine because the first part when they start erasing his memories, he's okay with it.
Because they're the bad memories. But once it gets closer to like the middle of the memories being erased before their relationship got shitty, he's like, oh, I don't want to lose this positive memory.
Right. He doesn't want to lose the positive ones, and that's why it becomes a quote-unquote, as you said, horror movie, because he's upset about the memories being deleted because he doesn't want them to be deleted. He just wants to forget the bad.
I mean, it's a scary concept.
I mean, no. I don't think it's a scary concept.
I don't know, man. The idea that someone could, like, at will sneak into my house at night and put a machine on my head and start deleting stuff they don't want me to have is kind of a scary concept.
I mean, they could be doing that right now and you wouldn't know.
Right, because I don't remember.
Exactly. So if you're not going to remember, how could it be a scary concept?
I mean, that's fair.
You wouldn't even know what happened.
Did you know this movie was initially going to be set 50 years in the future?
I am so glad it was not.
Me too.
I mean, it does make a little bit of sense though, because the way that they do the, what's it called? The agency, it's not Lunesta.
It's Lucia. It's
Leukemia.
No, it's Lucia.
Luca.
Yeah, but what it is it's Latin, I think, for emptiness, maybe.
Yeah, no, I remember reading that it was Latin. It's Latin for like emptiness or erase or forgetfulness or something.
Yeah,
it ties into the movie. Is basically what we're trying to say.
yeah.
But that aspect of it was the only thing that just didn't quite make sense because it's random. I mean, like even the way that he finds out is with David Cross giving him this card, and then when he goes to find it, it's like this little hole in the wall shop that's super hidden and out of place.
So that's actually a scene I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So the scene where Joel's given the card with Clementine's name, saying that Clementine has decided to erase Joel Parrish, blah blah blah, whatever.
So before we get to that, I just want to interject real quick and say that the whole reason this started was because he goes to Clementine's work because they got into a fight to give her something, and Elijah Wood is making out with her.
You don't know that it's Elijah Wood at this point. His face isn't shown in that scene until the end of the movie.
You can see it though.
Right, you can tell, but it's like intentionally obstructed so that because you're not supposed to know.
Right. But basically there's this mystery guy who is making out with her and he can't understand why she doesn't know who he is. Yeah, so then he goes and starts bitching about it to David Cross, and that's when he pulls out the piece of paper.
Right, and I really want to talk about this scene because when Clementine's name gets erased from the card when he's in his memory with it being erased.
Mm-hmm. Which was really cool.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite scenes because it just looks super cool.
So as far as like the memory erasing scenes go, the library scene is my favorite.
Where you can see like Elijah Wood's face just like flopping back and forth, and Clementine's like, I don't need someone to be nice to me.
Well, no, I was talking about like the ending.
Oh, okay.
Like when you do this, when it goes back the second time, when she's putting up the books, and like if you look, all the books are slowly disappearing into like solid blank books, just evaporating, and the signs don't have words on them anymore. They disappear. I mean, as far as all the memory erasing scenes go, that one is the one that stands out to me the most, just because there's so much going on in the background.
That's fair. That was definitely a really good one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. A lot of how they handled the memory erasing things were cool.
So after Patrick comes up and knocks on the window and asks Joel what he's doing out there, is when it gets to the next section of the movie, because this all happens within about the first 20 minutes of the movie.
So, and I do want to point that out, is that the opening credits for this are, I think it takes like 15 minutes for the credits to finally appear. Yes. That was a fun little hard fact.
And after the credits appear is when like the movie actually starts, and this is like when we find out that Joel has gone to Lucia or however it's pronounced.
Don't worry, I'm looking at it right now, but continue.
Whenever he goes there and, confronts the doctor agrees to do an emergency erasure on him. So he goes and collects all of Clementine's stuff that he has, or everything associated with her, and takes the sleeping pills. And that's when I would say Act 2 starts, because I would say the first act is more like a prelude. It's the opening credits. It's like the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie, which is the end of the movie.
Right.
And then I would say that the second act is, a majority of it is where we're seeing Joel's memories being erased, and we also see the alternate storyline with Stan and Mary playing out and the doctor. And that's super important because it leads to the ending.
Now, one thing that I do want to point out is when he's going and erasing the memories, um, when the process starts with Jim Carrey and Mark Ruffalo, and he puts the snow globe down, and then he starts talking about it and goes, "Oh, there's a funny story behind this," and he immediately cuts him off and says, "Don't say them out loud, just think them. Get a much better rating if you don't talk." I thought it was kind of funny.
So you might know the answer to this. So there was a scene like that, and I think it was that scene was filmed one time, and basically what had happened was it had Jim Carrey sitting and getting his his memories being remembered and mapped so that they could erase them.
It's a lacuna.
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 Lucia, right?
LACUNAINC.
Oh,
It's Lacuna Inc.
I'm really stupid. Disregard. I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time.
Oh, and it comes from it's Latin for gap, deficiency, or loss.
So I was double wrong.
That's okay. I mean, it tied into it. It doesn't matter anyway.
Um,
I think I know what you were talking about, though, because the scene where you're talking about where he's watching himself when his memories are being erased and how the whole thing was shot at one time, and he just ran back and forth very quickly and put on a hat and jacket.
yeah, exactly. I'm glad that you caught that because I had completely forgotten what I was saying.
Yeah, don't worry. Most of this podcast is me just remembering what you're trying to say.
Or you interrupting me so that I lose my thoughts so that I can't remember what I was trying to say.
Yeah, everything I do is for a reason, so it makes me look better. This is just gonna be the roast of Bailey today. So
Cold-blooded. No, I'm just talking shit. I know you don't actually do that.
no, it's okay. You can play your rap battle that you wrote for me.
No, I don't. I was 100% joking about all that.
Oh, that's okay. Because where you fucked up is you sent it to me, so now it's going in the Facebook group.
Okay. That would be really embarrassing, but okay.
I'm just kidding. I won't do that. But if one of you is listening and you would like to purchase it for the special price of $1,
I don't even know if it's worth $1.
no, it's probably worth a penny.
I don't even know if it's worth a penny.
No, we were gonna do a rap battle, but I chickened out, so because I couldn't think of anything.
I mean, he chickened out because I sent him like a 20-second sample and it spooked him.
That's really what it was. I didn't want to do it. He was too good.
No, I feel like that's a misrepresentation because mine was really bad.
I mean, mine was going to be really bad, and I forgot that we were doing it and was caught up doing other things. So
I've shown what I wrote to a few different people, like the recordings of it, because I've got a couple different, and every single person I've shown has laughed hysterically and told me that I would get laughed at if I released it.
oh yeah, that's why we're never releasing it.
Well, no, one of these days I'm going to convince you to write something to come at me sideways, and then we're going to play this out, buddy.
Why don't we just sit here and roast each other?
I feel like this isn't the episode for that.
No, it's probably not. But one thing that I really like about this episode, or not this episode, this movie, is when we were talking about the improv that was given to it. According to Mark Ruffalo, the scene where him and Kirsten Dunst are dancing like half naked on top of Jim Carrey was completely improvised.
That's funny.
When they're in their underwear.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all because during my research, there are two of the characters that were like specifically told, "Hey, improvise whatever." Patrick didn't improvise as much, or as Elijah would, because his character was supposed to do certain things to trigger Joel's character to do certain things.
And Joel's character was supposed to, or Jim Carrey's character Joel was supposed to do certain things because he had to in order to show the dysfunction between him and Clementine.
Well, and yeah, basically,
which also falls into their love, but that's not the point.
Right.
But yeah, and when they start erasing things is when I think the movie gets really good because I don't want to like talk about them because it'd be just playing scene by scene.
Yeah.
But he does because what is really interesting is, and I would say that this is probably true for most relationships, is when you first get out of it, he's chasing her down the street, telling her, "Fuck you, this is happening. I'm erasing you because you did it to me."
Right.
And it's okay. He's happy. And then I want to say it's the scene where they're under the covers.
Yeah, that's like one of the first scenes where he's like, "Oh, wait, actually, this was a good one. I don't want to lose this one."
Like he starts panicking.
Yeah.
And the conversation that they have under the covers is great. And I want to say that that whole scene, the way that it was shot, was really beautiful and makes you feel like it was a good memory. Like, I wanted to keep that memory if I had it. And I really do appreciate the artistic style of this movie, I want to say, more than anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, the artistic style, like the way it conveys the emotions that, Joel and Clementine are feeling is really good. Or I guess it's just Joel feeling because all of his memories is just Joel's perspective of what happened.
Which, oh, I'm glad you brought up like his perspective of what happened, because there were certain conversations in there that I thought were very interesting, because he's basically just talking to himself at that point.
Exactly. Well, it's like the scene when he's talking to the doctor and the doctor literally says, well, this isn't real. Like, what you think will work might not work because I'm you.
Right. And it happens quickly, so you have to pay attention. And then if you pay attention to that one, every scene with him and Clementine where they're talking about, so all the one that really sticks out to me is when they're in the house and she goes, and I went upstairs and then you left. And he's like, well, I left because I was scared. And she goes, what if you didn't leave this time? And you realize that that's just him talking to himself.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he even says, well, I don't know what would happen because I wasn't there. I did leave.
Yeah. Which, that scene was great, but we'll get to that one. Because there are a few other scenes I want to talk about.
Well, so this kind of, the reason I brought it up plays into the beginning. So I think all of Joel's memory sequences that we see are misrepresentations of the people involved. And the reason I say that is because if you listen to like Clementine's speech patterns and the things she says in the movie, which isn't a memory, it's slightly different than a majority of the ways she says things in his memories.
Right.
Like the tonal differences and like even like the bipolar nature, it seems significantly more like exasperated. It seems like worse in his memory of the events than it does in real life.
Well, let's take the argument that they have where she's sitting there and she's like, I'm going out. And he's upset with her, and she says, you're upset because I'm going out and you think that I'm going to fuck someone. And he looks at her and goes, no, I don't think you're going to fuck someone. I know you're going to fuck someone because that's how you get people to like you.
He says, I assume.
Or I assume. You're going to fuck someone because that's the only way that you get people to like you.
Exactly.
And then she storms out.
Right, and when they had that real conversation in real life, she wasn't mad about him saying it. She was like clearly hurt, and she was like, I literally don't do that.
Right.
Which that could be because they don't know each other as well, because this is when they're first meeting, but hearing their recordings from when they decided to get their memories erased. So it's possible that she just doesn't know him well enough to defend herself the way she would in his memory.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the ones that I was looking at where it could have went either way, right? Because you're right, she doesn't defend herself the way that she does, but it never specifies how long that they were together at that point.
2 years, I think.
Well, at that point in time, does it say 2 years?
I don't know. So I'm pretty sure that was near the end of their relationship, and I'm pretty confident they were together for 2 years because he was missing just over 2 years worth of journal entries.
Right, okay.
Which is why I'm assuming that their relationship was 2 years. I don't definitively know.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember. I mean, because I know that he says that, but I can't remember anywhere in the movie where it specifically says how long they dated.
No.
But that part right there, I thought could go either way, because of the amount of time that they've spent together could lead a person to act like that and be like, well, you know what, I hate you, because they were obviously having issues.
Right. So that's why this is more of like an assumption than like this is the way it is, because I don't actually know. That's just that's a vibe that I got, that it's intentional misrepresentation because he's an unreliable narrator in his memories. But I would argue that that's the same for real life.
Right.
Like in my memories, I'm confident that they're unreliable recountings for what happened based on other people's perspective of the same events.
So memory is something that you can't rely on. because when I took one of my psychology classes, we spent an entire like a week or two talking about memory and just like really dissecting it. And one of the things that was super interesting that my professor did was she had someone come in and grab her purse and run out very quickly, and then went around and had all of us write down what we saw. And almost every single person's was different slightly. And that was because we all saw different things. Because the way that your memory works is like a strip of film. So when you have holes, because your memory can never be not complete. And when the film reel has like a scene burnt out of it, your mind will take a random memory and plug it in there because it can't process holes. So it just fills them with random things, and that's why you get two memories confused and you mash them together because you're forgetting pieces of one, so then your brain just puts two together.
That makes sense.
So that's just one of the weird ways the mind works. And I thought that was super interesting, and that's why like witness testimonies in court don't really hold up because people remember events wrong and just, make up things because that's the way their brains work. It's not their fault. It's just your brain can't comprehend not knowing something in a memory.
Exactly. No, that makes sense.
And I think that one thing that was really, really cool about this is that the whole memory thing does work very well with this, because I don't think there was ever a time where, because he forgot everything that was associated with her, including like the little piece in there where you said he forgot the song of, Oh My Darling.
Potentially. Like I said, I don't know if that was intentional or just him playing dumb so he wasn't being mean to her, because he even said, I'm trying to be nice.
Right, but no, I think it's part of it.
Yeah, I think that he forgot it, but I can't definitively say.
I can say he definitively forgot because that's my personality.
No, I feel that.
But no, so one thing that this movie talks about is the relationship aspects of I can't remember his name and I just blanked. Elijah Wood's character. Patrick, not Patrick Bateman. Oh, that's how I'm gonna remember it. And how it's super funny because he tries to be exactly.
Well, he goes so far as to stealing Joel's gifts.
He steals the gifts, and then he steals he steals all the stuff that Joel brings in.
Yeah,
like
all
he goes
the
through
journal entries so that he can try to repeat the same quotes.
And when he does it, when they're on the lake, and he word for word repeats it, there is a tiny brief second where she freaks out and gets very uncomfortable because she has deja vu about it. She can't remember it, but you can tell by the look on her face that what he said she has heard before. She just doesn't know where.
Well, so, I mean, that's explained kind of by the doctor when he's talking about what the procedure actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's brain damage on par with the quote-unquote heavy night of drinking.
Right.
Which a lot of people will tell you, I drink super heavily and I black out. But even if you black out, you don't consciously remember it. It's retained by your subconscious. And he said that they would likely remember all the events, but they would remember more as dreams than like reality. So it would be hazy, foggy, unable to specifically recall.
Like she remembers that it was said, just not why it was said or who said it.
Or even if it was said necessarily to her.
Right, it was just said.
Exactly.
But that was a scene that I really liked because she just immediately sits up and goes, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And so Elijah Wood's character, Patrick, is the creepiest little man I have ever seen in my life. He does a very, very good job. And it's super interesting how all of the women around him just don't like him.
I'm pretty confident that he was written as comedic relief.
I mean, I think so too. And my argument for that one is when he is plugging in the machine and it turns it up to where when Joel is dreaming or whatever, it gets like super bright and then not bright and kind of freaking out. And then he starts like
almost having a seizure.
Yeah. And then Mark Ruffalo's like, what are you doing? He almost goes Hulk smash on him. But it's okay. Frodo would be able to fight him off.
I don't know, dude. He doesn't have the one ring to rule them all.
No, you're right. he lost that. When Kirsten Dunst comes over, she like the disdain that she has for when he opens the door. You can see the expression of her face change because she thought
It was gonna be Stan.
it was going to be Stan, and because the Incredible Hulk didn't open the door and Frodo did, he just immediately goes off and is like, "See, I told you she doesn't like me."
Well, I mean, see, the thing is, and I'm not gonna be super specific and call people out on this, but like there are people that you know, that I know, that everyone who meets them knows like almost immediately, oh, this guy's a creep.
Yes. No, I know exactly. Yeah.
Like I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but I can think of like 10 people from my past who immediately upon meeting them I was like, oh, this guy's a creep. And then later on when I hear like, oh, this person did X, Y, or Z, I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, because they're creepy.
Yeah, and like, I mean, there are people that like I used to know growing up who all of my female friends didn't like, and I got weird vibes from them, and it's because they were creeps.
Right, because that's what they give off.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Patrick gives off that creep vibe, which he's a creep because he talks about stealing,
Her panties.
exactly, stealing panties and, using hardcore manipulation tactics to get her to like him. Like, that's fucking creepy shit.
No, that's not hardcore manipulation tactics. That's fucking like stalker level shit.
That's beyond stalker level shit because it's literally, I know this worked on you before, baby. So
I'm gonna do it again.
round 2, what's up?
Which, ironically enough, doesn't. But it brings up a very interesting point that we'll talk about later. Because I don't want to get to it now. But it's the same thing for Kirsten Dunst's character with the doctor.
Right.
How they secretly had a relationship that she doesn't remember.
Right, but she still clearly has feelings.
Right. So the feelings never go away. And it's proven. Because she still falls for him the exact same way. Even though she doesn't remember any of it.
Exactly.
And then gets, pissed off and distributes everything to everybody.
As one should.
But that was what I thought was very interesting, and also the fact that she wants to show off, because she says in the tape that she wants to appear smart to him. She
wanted to be impressive.
Yes, so that's why and I think the scene that carries a lot of weight is when he's over here fixing the map for Joel because he's gone off the beaten path to try to save the memory of Clementine.
Yeah, and she's quoting, quote unquote, Pope Alexander.
You mean Alexander Pope?
No, she says Pope Alexander.
Yeah, but which is funny because
Yeah.
he like immediately corrects her.
Which was funny.
And then she goes, "Oh, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how I shouldn't say that, and then it just came out."
Yeah, which is something that I've done before, so
Right.
I get it.
Well, no, I mean, like, I get it because I've done it too. I mean, I even did it with the trash. I specifically said before I left here to come and watch the fights with you that I was going to take out the trash. And then I got back and I was like, oh, I remember why I was going to take out the trash.
Yeah.
So, but that whole dynamic and relationship I thought was interesting.
No, it definitely was. And I don't know, I think that it's kind of fucked up. Like, I'm really glad that the doctor's wife rolls up and gets, like, emotional with him and is like, dog, tell her, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, I thought that was really good because watching this movie, like, personally, I would feel, like, super stoked if I could have memories erased. Like, I know I was talking about it being scary, but, like, it would be cool, but it would also be, like, wrong because
Right.
even bad memories are what makes you who you are.
I agree.
I know. I'm spitting straight facts over here.
And the fact that she goes and gives everything to him was a good thing. Maybe. I don't know if you think that.
Her distributing the memories or
All
the
of the
tapes.
Yeah, we're distributing the files and the tapes to everybody.
I mean, I think that it's important. I don't know if good is necessarily the thing. I think that it would be right to do, like morally right.
Morally right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. I think that one thing that I really wanted to talk about is do you think the ending is fucked up?
So the ending kind of solidifies something that I don't know. I'm very conflicted on the ending because I can see it from multiple perspectives, and I don't know which one I necessarily agree with the most. But the one that, I like the most and the one that I think differs from your perspective
Mm-hmm.
is I think them getting back together is good. And the reason I think them getting back together is good is because this is what you're talking about, right?
Yes, because I'm glad that because I was saving this for like the last part of it because I knew that we were gonna have like a long discussion about it.
Is this the last part of it?
Well, I mean, we can talk about whatever. So before we get into this, because I know we're gonna go like super into it, is there anything that you wanted to talk about, like any specific scenes?
Yeah. So
Let's talk about your scenes and then we'll get into that.
so the one scene I kind of already mentioned it was when Joel was under the table.
Mm-hmm.
I
The
thought
little
that
kid scene.
I thought that was a really good scene because it shows that when he's regressed to his childhood memories, he starts to experience the same emotions as his childhood self did. And I think that's really cool because this whole movie is about the emotions you tie with memories.
Right.
So when he goes back to being a little kid, he's like vulnerable and scared and like hurt.
Well, he even feels the shame and embarrassment.
I was going to get to that when he kills the bird.
I mean, I wasn't gonna get. I was talking about the masturbation one where his mom walks in on him, but yes, the bird too.
Well, I'm pretty
Well,
sure.
that was like sadness.
Well, I'm pretty sure the shame and embarrassment of killing the bird was like almost an exact quote from when he killed the bird.
Yes.
So that's why I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was going to talk about that, but it's okay. Go ahead.
So then the next scene that I wanted to talk about was when he kills the bird. And the reason that I thought that that was like powerful is because that's literally how kids are. They're all like encouraging you to do something ignorant. And then when you do it, everyone's just like, oh, that's gross and fucked up. Why would you do that?
Yeah, no, because I liked that scene for that reason where the bird's dead, but they have it in the wagon and they just want him to beat it with a hammer
Yeah.
because it'd be cool in their eyes. And they're taunting him and teasing him and telling him that he has to do this. And it's just a little kid in a red cape, which is Joel. But that's it. And they're all just standing around. And then he does it, and the instant regret that he feels after he does it is just really powerful because then, Clementine, little mini Clementine, who wasn't even in this memory, comes over, comforts him, and then grabs him and then takes him away. And that's when he turns around and stands up to the kid and says, I'm not afraid of you anymore. Like, there's no reason to be afraid of you.
Yeah. And then he puts him in like a headlock.
Yeah, puts him in like a headlock. So I still thought it was like a really powerful scene.
And then I want to talk about the comedic relief from like the scene immediately following that because that was dark and sad. And then the comedic relief is Joel and child Clementine like play fighting.
Oh, trying to suffocate each other.
Yeah, and they're like literally he's like got her mounted in like a full mount and has a pillow and he's like trying to suffocate her with it. And then in the next scene,
well, no, his mom, like, because his mom like looks out the window.
yeah, and they're like, oh, we're playing, and they wave at her, so that's why it's funny.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, I liked it because then in the next scene it shows them both as an adults in a different memory, where it's Clementine on top of Joel suffocating him with a pillow as adults.
Yes.
Clearly playful though. And then he plays dead, which was funny.
And then she gets mildly worried about it until she tickles him.
Yeah.
Which was good. I mean, the comedic pacing and timing in this movie was pretty good. I will give it that.
Whenever you get hit with the real deep sadness, it tries to pull you out.
So what else did you like about it?
So those were the specific scenes I wanted to talk about. Now, if you want to move on to the ending, I'm emotionally ready.
Are you emotionally ready for the ending?
Yeah.
Okay, because the emotional aspects of the ending are he comes to terms with, because he tries to hide her by pulling her into different memories that he's not supposed to be in, and they find him, put him back on track, doesn't really work. But he comes to terms with the fact that everything about her is about to fade because he halfway through regrets, like we said, his decision and wants to be with her because the good memories are outweighing the bad ones in his mind because the bad ones are gone.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say when he decides that, oh, I don't actually want to delete this, it's after most of the bad memories have been erased. So I don't know if he's like cognizant enough to know if he actually wants to be with her anymore or not.
So I think that he wants to hold on to the good memories, because I
Absolutely.
think as humans, we want to hold on to the good aspects of things and not the bad. So if we can get rid of the bad, we will, and just keep the good. But I feel like there needs to be a balance of good and bad, which is why you need to keep the bad ones. But we'll get into that. And I think that what ends up happening is he regrets it and then comes to terms because everything is crushing or crumbling around him. Like the last scene where they're in the house and he's staying because this is what he thinks would happen if he stayed, and then the house starts falling apart.
So, did you write down or remember the last thing that is said to Joel in his memory, or in his memory in his mind?
Oh, I will never forget it. I don't have to write that down.
What is it?
She leans in and whispers, which ironically enough, this was two people talking. It was Kate Winslet and there was like a voice actress that did it for her like the day before. So it's a combination of both their voices whispering, meet me in Montauk.
You mean one talk?
No, fuck you. Meet me in Montauk, which is why he goes to Montauk.
No, it isn't, because he gets his memory erased, so he couldn't remember that.
I mean, no, because you said subconsciously.
No, I mean, no, I agree with you. Like, I think he subconsciously remembers his memory telling him, or his memory brain version of Clementine telling him meet her in Montauk.
Well, because it's funny because he says in that opening scene that he's not an impulsive person, so he doesn't know why he called in sick, and he doesn't know why he went to Montauk.
Well, see, that's why I think that it's subconscious.
Right, and I agree. I think that it's a subconscious thing because it also really focuses in on it. Like the way the camera work goes is it focuses in on her lips and his ears, so you know that it has a lot of significance, which is why I think that the film is trying to tell you this was a subconscious thing.
So my question for you is this, and this is the reason why, like, I've been arguing about what it's supposed to mean and what it's supposed to signify and suggest,
Mm-hmm.
because Clementine's character's there,
Yes.
and there's no way that him remembering her, or his memory version of her telling him to meet him or meet her. I'm sorry, this is confusing.
Yes.
Joel's memory version of Clementine telling Joel to meet Clementine in real life in Montauk.
Joel telling himself.
Yeah, it's Joel telling himself through Clementine in his mind to meet her in real life in Montauk. Doesn't make sense for her to be there.
No.
So that's why I think that that's why I think this is supposed to be a good ending, signifying like true love and like happiness.
Okay, so I disagree. And the reason I disagree and why I think that this is on a level of extremely fucked up is because, and I'm going to use Kirsten Dunst in The Doctor as an example. Her memory is erased, right? And he doesn't want to have anything to do with her, yet she falls into the exact same patterns as last time. And the ending occurs the exact same way, which signifies to me that both of them having their memories erased, they are going to fall in the exact same patterns because they are two totally different people. And because of that, the relationship is literally doomed to fail, and they know it, which they mention that even if it's doomed to fail, they're willing to try anyway, which you could argue is true love, but I argue is fucking stupid because they're not meant to be together, and they are going to become extremely toxic towards each other.
All right, so I disagree. And so I think the reason that the doctor's relationship with Kirsten Dunst doesn't work is because A, he didn't erase his own memory,
Okay.
and B, he was married, and so it wasn't a viable relationship to begin with because he already has kids, and has made it apparent he's not willing to get divorced for her. So that's my argument against that. And then my argument against Joel and Clementine not being meant to be together, or in this case, legitimately being meant to be together, is 100% based on the fact that they have the tapes and they still decide to be together after it's obvious they've listened to them, because it means that they're hearing and seeing what they didn't like about each other. So it's presumable that they've listened to each other's tapes because we see them listen to portions of it.
Right.
And because of that, like, if I was dating someone and I had been dating them for a year, for instance, and a year in I found out, oh, she doesn't like it when I do X, Y, or Z, and it's something that wasn't a big deal to me, I might have stopped doing it a year ago had I known it was an issue.
Okay, so hold on. I'm gonna cut you off because this is actually what I wanted to talk about for Taylor Talk. So we're just not gonna do Taylor Talk. We're just gonna, because we're already into this, and we're just gonna keep going with it. But continue.
Well, I mean, I still want you to ask me the Taylor Talk question because that was just a specific example because I'm using it to tie into their relationship. I think that them knowing the issues that they had with each other based on the tapes, it'll be easier to determine if they're a viable relationship because it's obvious that Joel was insecure, and that was the reason he had issues with Clementine's character going and drinking without him and stuff.
Right.
So she already knows that he's insecure, and he knows that part of the reason their relationship down fell the first time was because of his insecurity. So now that they know that's an issue, it'll be easier for them to work around it and not necessarily create a safe space or like a safety net. I think it'll be harder to repeat the same mistakes if they're aware of it. That's why history is important.
And see, I disagree completely because I'm the type of person that my belief is if you are with somebody and it doesn't work out, there is no reason to get back together with them because you know, like the whole reason that Joel and Clementine broke up is because they are different people that live their life differently fundamentally, right?
Right.
And because of that, the dynamics, are you okay?
I'm keep having like burps, and I'm trying to burp away from the mic.
Oh, okay. I was like, I hope you don't throw up on my carpet.
No, it's just a little burpsy.
Okay. But the dynamic of their relationship is two completely opposite people that are trying to make it work, and they're really like their personalities don't mesh together because so in my experience, and the only type of a relationship, and moving forward, this is all that I want in a relationship, is I need somebody who is the same, like, goal-oriented and driven as me and is, like, on the same path as me, right? Okay? Does that make sense?
I feel that. That's definitely something I can relate to.
And so they're totally opposites, right? He is more reserved, and she is more, fuck it, go with the wind.
Right.
And because of that, they don't work.
I mean, I don't think that necessarily signifies incompatibility because if they make a conscious decision to be compatible, I think they can.
And see, I disagree because what you're having in that relationship is what I call the quarterback cheerleader, where you have the quarterback who is doing everything and then the cheerleader girlfriend that's like sitting on the sidelines, you know, congratulating them and cheering for them, which is great, but it doesn't really go anywhere, which is what is happening in this relationship. Joel's just kind of sitting back there and cheering for her and being like, oh yeah, go Clementine, as she's doing things.
I don't know. I feel like this experience will help him come out of his shell.
Which it will. I'm not arguing that one.
Right.
But it's not in his nature. He would have to completely change his whole entire nature, and it's obvious by the memories that happen that he does not want to do this because when they're first dating, he is very adventurous and spontaneous, and because he's doing stuff with her, right?
Well, no, when they first started dating the first time, when the night they met, he left the house.
Right, but I'm like talking about like in the beginning because they're doing stuff because one of the things is they go to the market. There's the elephant show thing, which fun fact about that one, if you listen very closely, that one was kind of filmed at a weird time, so a fan actually walked up and wanted to like get a picture with Jim Carrey not knowing that they were filming.
That's funny. I didn't notice that.
But anyway, it's not the point. The point is he's going out and doing stuff. Like he gets out of his comfort zone on the first night because they're on a frozen lake, and he's what you're shaking your head.
So I disagree with you.
Okay, go ahead.
I hard disagree.
Okay.
Which you could have finished your thought. I was just shaking my head to let you know that I was hard disagreeing.
Well, no, because like he talks about not wanting to go out because it's not safe. Like what happens if we fall in? She's like, oh yeah, it won't happen. But he does it. So he's getting out of his shell and doing it, but he doesn't really necessarily want to, and you can see like the hesitation. Even when she's inviting him in for drinks, he's like, oh, I don't really think I should.
And then he ends up in there. So see, that's my point.
And then he leaves.
I mean, he does leave, but he calls her.
Okay, but it doesn't matter because he sits there and debates whether he should call her. If it was true love, he would pick up the phone and call her immediately because she says, "Why did you wait?" And he lies and says, "I just got in." When we watched him sit there and go back and forth with, should I call her, should I not? He doesn't say anything, but you can tell.
So here's my argument against it. So when they first meet in the memory that we can see,
Mm-hmm.
they meet, they hang out for a bit, they go to the house cabin thing.
Yeah, the lake house. Or not the lake house, the beach house.
Yeah. And he decides to leave. He doesn't call her. Like, they end up getting back in contact. But he leaves that night without warning. Without doing, the super adventurous thing of staying.
Right.
But when they re-meet in the beginning or the end, depending on your perspective, he goes out into the lake, which is a super adventurous thing, which I would argue, based on memory, Joel, isn't something that memory Joel would have done. So I would wager that their initial relationship that he doesn't remember anymore has subconsciously affected him to make him more adventurous. So because he's going into round 2 more adventurous and, everything, I feel like that means that they're more likely to stay together. Because, in my opinion, he's more adventurous in the opening than he is during his memories.
And I would say the complete opposite, because if you take his memories based on, and this could go back into he's remembering it completely wrong, but if you take his memories, the first time that he meets her in his memories, he has a lot more confidence versus the first time that he meets her outside of having his memories erased, which signifies, because what you're saying is that he was more adventurous the second time, but I would argue that he'd be more adventurous the first time because of the way that he talks to her in the memory.
So I do agree that, him being willing to do the "oh my darling" thing in the memory.
Well, not even that, just like the confidence that he has.
I feel like being able to sing something like that to someone is confidence.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Which I think that's clear. I think that's, for your point, that's a clear display of confidence in his memory. Him being willing to sing that, because if I just met a girl named Clementine and I was even remotely attracted to her, I would also pretend not to know the song.
Right.
Because I wouldn't want to make it awkward.
But he has that confidence.
Right, so that's me agreeing with you.
Right.
But I would also argue that in the initial memory version of them meeting, had it been Frozen Lake instead of, Beach House,
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't have gone on the Frozen Lake. He would have been like, "Oh, no, fam, sorry, that ain't me."
Well, he goes on the Frozen Lake twice.
Yes, he does eventually in the memories, but it's not right when they meet. You know what I mean?
Right.
They've already been together for a minute because, he's willing to say, "Oh, I love you. I've never been this happy. I could die right now and it would be super gravy."
So what you're arguing is the subconscious parts of the memories are causing him to be a little bit more spontaneous, which in turn is causing him to learn from his mistakes, which will make them last.
That is my perspective, or at least the perspective I'm articulating for argument's sake.
Okay. And so my argument is that you can't completely change.
No,
Even
I
if you
agree with that.
And so I'm going off of the basis of they're two different people, and even if they work on the things that they don't like about each other, like the things that are said in the tapes that really cut them to the core, even if they work on those, there are still going to be unresolved underlying issues that are not going to be pointed out that will have the same effect, because I don't think that they're going to talk about it because they don't talk about it the first time.
I mean, that's fair. I don't know. I feel like, which obviously this is just, I feel versus I feel, because neither of us actually know.
No.
But I don't know. Based on my perspective, or the perspective I'm trying to articulate, they work it out because they're clearly want to be together. They might even be quote unquote destined to be together, or they wouldn't have found each other immediately after, Joel's memory gets also erased.
Well, so my thing is, if you are destined to be with someone, then you would make it work the first time, right?
Well, I mean, had she not erased him, who's to say that they wouldn't have ended up back together anyway?
I mean, so what I'm saying is they shouldn't have been separated the first time, because if you're truly meant to be together, you will work through your issues.
Well, I mean, deciding to take a break is potentially working through your issues.
But they didn't take a break.
Right, because she immediately erased him before they had an opportunity to take a break.
Exactly. So that wasn't a break. That was a breakup.
Right, but even if someone breaks up, it doesn't necessarily mean forever.
I mean,
It does for you.
yeah, for me. Well, okay. So I mean, that's the thing. So I'm trying to say it from your perspective, because so would you get back with any of your exes?
If the circumstances were right, probably not, because a majority of my exes currently have children.
Okay, if they don't have children, they're not married and they don't have children.
Yeah, I probably would get back together with a lot of them because I don't feel like the ending of most of my relationships were like a definitive end, because it wasn't generally hostile grounds. It was generally, this isn't working right now, we should take a step back for a little while.
So even if it wasn't ended on hostile grounds,
Then there's still room for, like, just because I don't talk to someone anymore, or like view someone like that anymore, doesn't mean that, like, it's not still there. You know what I mean?
I guess. I
don't know.
mean,
Maybe I have too much of a romantic view on it.
I guess where I'm more of like a analytical view of, these are the facts, this is why it didn't work. So I mean, and that's why my perspective is like, I need a partner who will do like 100% with me, and wants to, like, so for instance, if I meet someone who has big dreams and aspirations, right, that's a plus.
Right.
But I will not get into a serious committed relationship with you unless you are actively working to try to achieve those. Because if you just say that you want to do something and you want to start something, like if we had just said we want, like what we did for a very long time, and just said we were going to start the podcast and then never bought the equipment and never, did anything with it.
Well, I mean, I lived on the other side of the country.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we still could have made it work. We still could have made it work.
I don't know. Right when I moved back, we started it up, bro.
Right, we did, but I mean, I'm talking about like if I met someone who had said, like I want to do this or I want to do that, but never puts it into practice, I guess is what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about, like being on the same level with me and heading down the same path. Like I want someone who understands the ambitions that I have and also has their own ambitions, so that way we can work and move towards it, where it's like, I understand what you're doing, so if you need some time, that's fine. Where if you get with someone who doesn't understand what ambitions are and doesn't have the same ambitions as you, then it's not a 50-50 partner teamwork aspect. It's a quarterback cheerleader dynamic where eventually they're going to get tired of, just like cheering you on the sidelines because they don't get it. And you're going to start resenting them because they don't get it. And then it's not going to work. Or at least, that's what I think in my experience.
Well, I mean, so I'm not going to, like, disagree with you because obviously it's your perspective.
Well, and you can. I know that it's a very hard perspective.
Well, I mean, my argument against that would be, like, just because you don't perceive someone giving effort, like, perceived effort and exerted effort aren't necessarily the same thing. It's the same with, like, working out. For instance, I could go into the gym and pick up something super lightweight and make you think that I was working super hard with it by, like, flexing my neck when I'm lifting so it looks like I'm using more of my muscles, or like grunting really loud. So perceived, I'm exerting a lot of effort, when in reality it's the lowest weight, I'm not exerting any. But it could be the other way around. It could be the lowest weight and I could be unbelievably weak or bad at something, and me trying to lift it up is me exerting all of the power I have, but you might see it and be like, oh, it's such a small amount, he's not actually exerting anything. So effort is perceived from an internal perspective, but from an external perspective looking in.
And I agree with that. So I guess the question would be, what would be the difference between what would be the internal and external perspective of my argument from your perspective?
So you might say, okay, so from your argument, like, it depends on what the dreams are.
Okay.
So, for example, I want to be a comedian. Like, that's something I really want to do. From your perspective, I might not be putting very much effort into it because you've never seen me go on stage and do an open mic anywhere. So from your perspective, I could not be putting very much effort in. Whereas from my perspective, I'm putting a lot of effort in because I spend a lot of time trying to write jokes. even if they aren't funny generally. Because I spend a lot of time doing that, I feel like I'm putting in a lot of effort. Whereas there are people from the outside that I talk to about it, and they're like, oh, you're not actually trying because you're not actually going on stage anywhere. So because of that, you're not actually putting effort. When in reality, I spend quite a bit of spare time writing jokes that aren't funny.
Which is something that I know. I know that you're doing it. So from my perspective, you would be putting in the effort because you are writing the jokes, even if you're failing at it, but you're putting in the effort to be successful.
Right, but if you didn't know I was writing jokes and you just heard me say, oh yeah, I want to be a comedian, but you never heard me because I try to send jokes to you all the time or like tell a joke to you to see if you'll laugh. So you know I'm working on it. But if I didn't do that, you might be like, oh, he says he's trying to be a comedian, but I've literally never heard of him trying to go on stage. He's not putting any effort in.
And so if I was like an outside person that you didn't talk to, then yes, I would look at it as, oh, you're full of shit.
Right. So that's why I'm saying that like effort is perspective based. So in like a relationship with having someone with goals and dreams, you know, they could work on it a lot and just not in a way that you can like perceive. Like it's all internal work. You know what I mean?
So then communication would be the key.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a part of that, like, you know, going in the same direction and having, because I think that communication in relationships is a very vital thing. And once that communication stops, it's very hard. Because even in my last relationship, when she was moving out, one of the funniest things that we really laughed about, because her mom even commented on it, was you know that spice rack I have in there?
Not definitively.
The white one, the small white one? Okay.
I have no idea anything that's in your house because when I walked into this room and you mentioned something in the other room, my memory of ever being in the other room is gone.
Okay. Yeah, because this is the studio.
Yeah.
But when you go out, I'll show it to you. That spice rack I hated since day one, and I never said anything about it because she really wanted a spice rack, and then come to find out she hated it since day one, but didn't say anything because she thought that I liked it. So then her mom said, wow, you guys really had really bad communication.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And it was like, yeah, we laughed about it after we said it because it was like, yeah. But in that instance, you know, it was kind of a learning opportunity for both of us. And I think that that's why I look at this movie with the ending like I do. Because if we were to get back together, I know for a fact that it wouldn't work. Because we talked about it and said, you know, what if we had done things differently? If we did this differently, would we still be together? And I mean, we both came to the same conclusion of like, no, we wouldn't. Because we are fundamentally two completely separate people who want different things out of life. And because we don't want the same things out of life, we can't work together.
I mean, that's fair.
Because what one person wants would be perceived as greedy or bad compared to the other, right?
No, I mean, I feel that.
So, and that's the way that I'm looking at it, which is why like the next relationship that I get into, people might be like, oh, you're just a dick about everything, but it's no, because, you know, I'm getting to that age where it's like it's time to settle down, and that's kind of something that I want, you know.
How old are you?
I mean, I'm 25, but 30. Okay, so like 30, right? I got like 5 years to kind of find something and settle down.
Do you?
I mean, I think so.
Oh.
That's just my perspective on it.
I don't know, dude. I'm 26 and I haven't been in a relationship in more than 4 years. And like, I'm perfectly gravy train with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're, you know, okay with being a loser, and that's fine.
That is cold-blooded.
Yeah, you walked into that one. It's okay.
I mean, I don't know. Being alone doesn't necessarily make you a loser. We might have plenty of fans who, you know, are single.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about you.
Wait, so why does me being single make me a loser, but potential fans being single does not make them a loser?
Because I like them more than you.
Oh, that's fair. I'm not a huge fan of myself either.
No, I mean, so one thing that I would have said is that if you're single, it's a bad thing when I was in a relationship, but now that I'm single, it's like, you know, and it sounds so cliche, but it's one of those things where this is the time to kind of figure out what you want.
To be left alone.
and if you want to be left alone, you want to be left alone, and like that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with it, you know, but you should find that by yourself and with somebody. And I think the problem is that I realized what I wanted with somebody who wasn't what I wanted. And that was the problem. So like that's the fucked up thing that I did that I regret. And that's why it's like, do it when you're single. Find out what you want when you're single.
That's fair. I don't know. I feel like during all of the periods of time where I was in a relationship, I thought that that was exactly what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But then when spending an extended period of time single, I find out I generally prefer that simply because, like, I don't like being told what to do. I don't like having other people suggest activities for me. I like to do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want to do it.
And that's my thing, because I realize that I have a very big issue with authority.
Me too.
Like, and I didn't realize how bad it was until my boss started telling me to do things. And my coworker pointed out that the expression on my face, which I didn't eat, like I subconsciously made this face, but after it was said and done, like she looked at me wide-eyed, and I was like, "Why did you look at me like that?" And she said, "Because the expression on your face was the biggest fuck you I have ever seen in my life." And I was like, I didn't even notice. That was just my reaction to a stupid question.
That's funny. At my last job, I got scolded frequently by my supervisor and coworkers about my clear disgruntled nature, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not a superiority thing, because I know that some people are going to perceive this next statement as me saying I'm better than other people.
Right.
But if I'm in a position where I'm working and someone who is in charge of me does less work, puts in less effort, and doesn't understand the job as well as I do, and they tell me to do the incorrect thing, or a less effective version, or the wrong thing per the SOP or laws and regulations, other people might be like, oh, well, it's what the supervisor said, I'm going to do it. But I was like, nah, sorry, homie, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you have no power over me.
No, I agree completely.
And I had that perspective for a long time, and it cost me to, like, I'm pretty sure that's the reason I never got promoted at my last job.
Mm-hmm.
Because my big boss, was not good at her job and not very intelligent, and I was very open about that with her and everyone around me.
And I mean, yeah, that's probably the reason why when I got promoted, quote unquote, to my job of doing 2 jobs for the same price as 1 job, I didn't get that 2 job pay.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was because I felt like I had more to offer, and I feel like I still have a lot more to offer than what they think I do.
Misutilization is a motivation killer for me, and I feel like in most jobs I've had, I was misutilized.
And I agree 100%, because I feel the same way, because some of the things that I say and suggestions that I make are, I know more than you do because people talk to me and they don't talk to you, so I understand why people are unhappy about something. So if you do this, this would fix like 60% of the issues that you have.
Right.
But I'm an idiot.
I feel that. Me too.
But I'm a fucking idiot.
No, I mean, I'm not trying to suggest that I'm always like universally right, because I'm certainly wrong often.
Right. And I'm not, I mean, I'm right when I'm right, but I'm wrong when I'm wrong, and I admit that. But I'm constantly trying to like seek out knowledge from people who are smarter than me, because one thing that I've learned in life is if you hang around people that are smarter than you and you're the dumbest person in the room, that's the best thing in the world, because you're going to learn from those people. If you hang out with people that are less intelligent than you and you're the smartest person in the room, you're going to be bored and you're never going to learn anything. Like, you've hit your cap, and then you're just that, asshole that's better than everybody else. So fuck you for that one. But if you're the dumbest person in the room, you can constantly absorb knowledge.
No, I definitely felt that.
And that's something that I like. And I think that's like the thing with relationships is you need somebody that's on that same like wavelength with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for instance, if you had somebody, like, I like knowledge and I like to consume knowledge, so I would want someone who would be, I don't know how to say this without coming off like a complete asshole, so I'm just gonna say it. Someone who is as intelligent as I am, that is wanting to learn more continuously, and has that same belief of knowledge is power, and you need to consume as much knowledge as possible because it's going to help you with every aspect of your life. And I mean, I don't know. That makes me kind of sound like a conceited asshole a little bit. So I'm
So
roasting myself now.
I'm just gonna come in and like defend you. I think that, or not even I think, it's proven that one of the biggest factors of the relationships working is similar intelligence and values.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is like, it's not. I mean, it is your opinion, but it's also like regarded as the general opinion that two people are more compatible if they are on similar levels of like intellect.
And I'm glad you phrased it that way because I was not.
I know you weren't trying to be insulting.
Well, no, but the way that you phrased it is the way that I was trying to phrase it, but not come off like a complete asshole about it. And I feel like that's just part of knowing you and knowing what you want out of a relationship, which is why I think with the ending of this movie, they don't know what they want,
No, they want each other. They know exactly what they want.
but they don't know themselves because they've forgotten the bad parts of themselves.
No, they've forgotten their bad part. They've forgotten their bad parts of themselves when they're together. Like they
Right,
still.
which are the main like really important things because that's why they didn't work.
I mean, I guess that's fair. I don't know. They heard it from the tapes, bro.
Yeah, and then they go, well, I don't think that. And it's like, of course you don't think that because you don't fucking know them.
Yeah, you don't remember anymore.
Like, you don't remember, so yeah. But that's not to say that he's not going to think that she sleeps with everybody that she meets in order to make them like her. And that's not to say that she's not going to think that he is incredibly boring and unfun and just an asshole in general.
Right. I mean, you're correct. I was mostly playing devil's advocate because I'm
No, I know
pretty
what you were
confident
doing.
they don't work out. But
Yeah. No, I know what you're doing, and I'm glad that you did it. But, I mean, that was just the way that I interpreted it was like, hey, by the way, we can't remember any of these things, so we're going to be repeating them, but not know that we're repeating them.
I feel that.
And, like, that's okay, but I don't know. I'm sorry for roasting you.
No, when did you roast me?
I don't even know if I roasted you. I just made those, like, awkward comments about you.
No, that's okay.
It was like my poor attempt to roast you.
I'm sorry if I roasted you. I wasn't intending to.
No, I don't think you did. Look at that. Much like the ending of this movie, we are getting into our feels.
Yeah, and we don't remember if we wronged each other because I have short-term memory loss.
I mean, that's fair. I had a procedure done, so I can't remember.
Was it?
A lobotomy, yes. Didn't think I'd go that far, did you? I was not lobotomized.
Obviously.
So, I don't know.
Do you have any recommendations based on this movie?
Oh, I mean, any like 51st dates I think you would like. Really, you don't think so?
It's
Truman Show.
Truman Show, maybe. I don't think 51st Dates because, like, while it's a romance, I recognize that relationships are, like, the biggest part of this movie.
I mean, yes.
I see this as more of, like, a psychological thriller type thing than a romance movie because that makes it less sad for me.
Okay, so let me read off what so I looked up the IMDb page for this and it goes, you might also like these movies, and some of them I would agree with, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I think it's super funny, some of the things that they recommended. But the first one is Truman Show.
Yeah, I mean, it's got Jim Carrey in it, and it's very solid as well, but I don't think it's similar, really.
I mean, I would recommend it just because you like Jim Carrey.
Oh, no, it's a phenomenal movie. Everyone should watch it because it's really good.
What about A Beautiful Mind?
I don't know if I've seen that one.
That's the one where he has like the
Jim Carrey?
no, not Jim Carrey. It's it doesn't matter. He's got like a disorder. He's like mental.
Yo, you're going to have to give me a little bit more specific things before I can tell you if I remember it.
He's like a fucking genius. He's a brilliant antisocial. Well, no, kind of like. You know what? It doesn't fucking matter. American Beauty.
Yeah, American Beauty was solid.
But
I don't know if I would say that you'd like it if you like this because that seems like it's got like a more realistic and darker tone.
Well, not really realistic because
More realistic.
not more realistic because Kevin Spacey's going after an underage girl, not a boy.
I don't know if you can make jokes like that.
Oh, I can. I don't know if people will appreciate it, but
No, it's funny. And as long as one person laughs, it's funny in my opinion.
Good Will Hunting. I would like Good Will Hunting was
I don't see it. I don't see
I'm looking at it from like the romance perspective of this movie, because if I look at it from the romance perspective, I would go, the two people that are not compatible in Good Will Hunting.
I mean, so I recognize that, but I see it as more like a sci-fi perspective. Like, I think you'd like Memento if you like this. I think you'd probably like The Butterfly Effect if you like this.
Okay, Butterfly Effect I can agree with, but Memento?
Yeah, because it's a movie revolving around memory loss, and it's a mystery as to what happens. Which this isn't a mystery because it lays it pretty hard out for you.
Right. I mean, Memento.
It's also a jumbled timeline. Did you know that they weren't going to make this movie because the director and the director and writer were like, oh, this is too similar to Memento? And then the producer was like, the fuck you mean it's not too similar? We're still making it.
No, I did not know that. That's really funny.
Yeah, because Memento came out in, 99, and this came out in 2004.
This came out in 2004. I'll look at Memento real quick.
Pretty sure it was between 99 and 2001.
I thought it was 2000. Yeah, it's 2000.
Oh, man, I'm a fucking stupid.
Oh, well, I really like that movie, so.
No, I really like Memento, too, but.
You want to review it next week?
Do you?
No, I can't. We can't review it next week.
Oh, yeah, are we
doing? Yeah, we're doing the other thing, which we're not going to spoil. But we will definitely review Memento at some point.
Yeah, it's super solid.
Wonder if I still own that movie. Anyway.
You can't remember?
I can't remember.
You should have written it on yourself somewhere.
I think I tattooed it on myself. So funny story about Memento is when I watched that when I was in junior high.
Listen, bud, if we're going to do it later, maybe you should save the story.
No, I just want to tell you now. But when I was in junior high, I got the idea, because I thought his idea of like, because he has memory loss, so he tattoos notes on himself, was like a really great idea. So in order to write stuff down, I would write like all over my fucking arms and legs, like notes to myself that I needed to do homework and shit. And I would do it in Sharpie, so it wouldn't just go away.
I got really into like graffiti when I was like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And got magic markers and used to draw like graffiti tattoos on my arm.
Oh, I used to like sniff the magic markers.
That explains the differences between us today.
That explains the memory loss. You're not wrong. I figured it out. But no, I mean, I guess like sci-fi movies probably. I was looking at it more from like the love perspective, but I would say Butterfly Effect because I think it has both.
It does.
Memento doesn't have the aspect of love in it,
but it's a really cool like psychological sci-fi thriller.
Yes. What's another good one?
I don't know. I think a lot of thrillers that involve people not having memory, like what's that movie, Hide and Seek, maybe?
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's like I want to say it's like an early to mid 2000s film about this dude whose wife dies.
Mm-hmm.
And they go out into the woods, and his daughter is like bothered by this adult dude that he doesn't know. And I'm not going to give the twist of the movie.
Okay.
But it's got a very like psychological memory loss-esque theme that's pretty cool. I think it's called Hide and Seek, but I don't definitively know.
I think another movie that you would like if you like this one was Martyrs.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. I just like to throw that in there. So that's a joke.
Yeah, you wouldn't like Martyrs, or you would like it, but not because you like this movie. You'd like it because it's its own thing.
You probably wouldn't like Martyrs.
Well, I don't actually, devil's advocate here. They both made me really fucking sad.
You watched Martyrs?
I've seen Martyrs.
Oh my god. I feel like you're lying to me.
I might be, but I know it's a sad movie.
No, not in the same way.
Well, no, not in the same way, but
no, seriously. Don't watch Martyrs. That's like a French extremity movie. That's on the complete. That was just a joke. That was a really poor joke.
Well, I mean, it was a funny joke if no one had heard of it and decided to watch it based on your recommendation.
Yeah, but then you would never let me recommend movies. I mean, if you like that kind, if you like the French extremity movement and you want to see a really fucked up movie that's brilliant and I praise highly, yes, watch it. Don't watch it depressed. But yeah, watch it. And, I mean, yeah, because that was basically like Taylor Talk. I don't have any more recommendations.
I don't have any more. What was your Taylor Talk question? Like initially going to be? I know you said we discussed it.
I mean, like we discussed it, but my Taylor Talk question would basically be, and like the moment that it stopped was I was going to say, would you do the procedure or not? Because I was going to argue over having good memories and bad memories because it helps you like grow in the relationship. But then we covered all that. So I was like, fuck it.
So I will answer that question.
Well, you already did.
Oh,
You already answered, like, you answered it that you would. You said that you would do it, but it would be, like, a scary thing. So I was like, okay, well, there's no point in doing the Taylor talk because we've basically covered everything.
we beat this topic to death.
But it was a good topic. Like, I really like this movie because of that, so.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you watch this movie with someone who either has a different perspective or is willing to take a different perspective to talk about it. Like, I think that this is a solid movie.
Which is why I'm glad we had different perspectives on it.
Different
perspectives.
Yeah.
Which was basically me having the perspective of both of us and you playing devil's advocate, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this as like a date night movie?
I would recommend this as a date night movie if you guys are still early in your relationship. However, if you guys are really, really deep into your relationship, I probably wouldn't recommend it as a date night movie, simply because there are probably plenty of things that you or your significant other by deep in the relationship would have that you wish you could forget. And this movie might, cause you to fight about what you would want to forget in the event that they were foolish enough to ask you, if you could remember some events about me, what would you like to forget?
Oh yeah, no, that would be what we call a trap.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be a no-win situation.
No, if you're within your first year of the relationship or you haven't moved in together, then I would say watch this movie as a date night movie. If you are past the first year of your relationship and the honeymoon phase is kind of wearing off and you have moved in with each other, you should probably watch this in separate rooms and then not talk about it after it's done.
Yeah, or you might fight.
Or, you know what, watching this date night movie, play some roulette, take a fucking chance. We can't tell you how to live your life.
Join the Facebook group and let us know what you think. Or let us know how it goes.
Yeah, let us know how it goes. Just put in there, you caused me to get a divorce, and we will profusely apologize and say, I'm sorry, but that was not my fault.
I won't apologize, I'll laugh. But before we end up in today, because I'm pretty sure we're drawing towards the end.
Yeah, I would say that the natural progression of things has led us towards the end of this relationship.
Yeah. So I just want to take a second to thank everyone who's listened this far and to remind you guys, to join the Facebook group, to like the Facebook page, to follow us, on all of the platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening currently. And, just like recommend us to a friend if you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, please get on Facebook and, explain to us what we're doing that you don't enjoy so that we can consider your opinion to changing things or laugh at you off air.
Yeah, and if you know us personally and you don't want to join the Facebook group, but you want to give us feedback because you don't like us, then if you have our numbers or you have us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or whatever, send us, or Snapchat, give us a little message and explain to us why we're wrong, and then we will save your message and confer about it and either deny your request or approve it. We don't know yet.
But, feel free to give us feedback and feel free to follow us and feel free to recommend us to friends if you enjoy what we're doing here. It's going to get a lot better. Just wait.
It will. And for those of you that have been here since day one, I just want to take a minute and say thank you for being here since day one, and especially the people who have given us feedback in the beginning that was not good feedback that has definitely helped us improve. Thank you.
Well, it was good feedback. It was about things that we were doing poorly.
Yes, it was not good feedback. That was good feedback.
Exactly. It was good feedback about negative issues.
We were doing shitty things like bumping the table.
Sorry.
And you could pick it up in the mics or stuff like that. That's what we're talking about. But yeah, thank you for everybody that has, said anything about one thing that we're doing wrong and really helped us improve, because we wouldn't be able to get here if it wasn't for you.
Exactly. And, we would have probably given up a long time ago. A long time ago, we've been doing it for 2 months. We would have probably, given up or at least be talking about ending things instead of, just, getting a new logo, and we're getting theme music, and we just got stickers that we're going to be sending out to some fans. So be ready for us to reach our fingers into your inboxes and try to get your information so we can send you some stickers.
It will also, need all the account passwords, social security number, place of birth, date of birth, all of that fun information too in order to send you these stickers.
Are you trying to steal their identities? Because I just want to hook them up with merch.
Oh, yeah, I want to hook them up with merch too and then steal their identity. It's like a thank you for giving me your information. Here's our merch.
That's fair.
Yeah, I thought that was fair. I thought it was like a fair exchange.
Yeah, it's a equivalent exchange.
Yeah, it's the equivalent exchange. That's what that is. You give me your identity, and I give you a free T-shirt. Congratulations.
Oh, whoa, don't promise them T-shirts. It's just stickers right now, folks.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun. That is something that I want to do that we have not talked about yet, but we'll talk about that off here. But yeah, if you would like some stickers, reach out to us.
Yeah, and we're gonna reach out to some people that we know have already expressed interest.
Yeah, so don't think that we forgot about you because we know who you are. We know where you live.
Some of you. If you feel like you should be reached about the stickers and you haven't been by the time you hear this episode, wait like another week. And if we haven't hit you up then, send us hateful messages.
And then we would definitely won't send you any stickers because you made us cry.
Well, the reason I say wait another week is because I don't think we're going to have the stickers yet until a week after this episode drops. And I'm going to wait until we have the stickers before I ask for people's addresses.
We'll mail them to you.
Yes, sir.
And then you can stick them wherever you want just to give us a little logo. Stick them on your... Well, actually, don't stick them on your PlayStation or Xbox.
I mean, you can do whatever you want with them. You could literally get them, flush them down the toilet, and laugh at us for, sending them.
Ooh, speaking of which, if you really wanted to do it, and I hope that somebody does this when you're listening... if you want to, because you want to tell them like what the stickers are.
I mean, yeah.
Well, no, okay, so when you get the sticker, you'll understand. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if you want to take the sticker and put it on like the toilet tank, that would be awesome. I just want someone to do that.
Yeah, and if you want to like take selfies with the stickers, if you decide to place them out and add them to our Facebook group, something that we haven't talked about, but I've been thinking about, is putting like a video compilation of like stuff like that if we get enough submissions.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Do you want to give like a prize to the person who does the best submission?
I don't want to promise anything like that now because if there's only one entry, I don't want them to automatically get the prize.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
I would want there to be at least like 20 or 30 people participating so it's an actual competition.
Okay, so if we have like an actual competition and there's a good number of people that want to do this, we will give a prize to the person who has placed the sticker in the most creative way, in the most creative place. But if there's only like 5 of you that do this, that ain't a competition.
Yeah, we're just going to give you our eternal thanks. But anyway, Do you have anything else today, Taylor?
No, I pretty much think that covered it. This has been a long episode. I don't know how long this has been, but...
Yeah, we kind of got rambling here near the end.
We did, but I mean, we were talking about a good topic, I think. Or not, I don't know.
And thanking our fans.
And thanking our fans, our lovely fans who, every single one of you from the bottom of my heart, I love you. And not in the weird way.
I love you in the weird way.
Ooh, you're the weird uncle. I'm the cool stepdad.
Well, I'm not, no, not a weird uncle. That's not what I said.
Gotcha.
You're misconstruing me.
No, you sound and look like the weird uncle, and I am the cool stepdad.
All right. On that note, this has been Bailey.
And this has been Taylor.
And this is Two Idiots, One Podcast. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye.